The title is not clickbait, guys, so listen up. David Koresh was an infamous American cult leader, leading the group known as Branch Davidians, in which he claimed to be its final prophet. I'm not gonna be focusing on the whole group, cause the Davidians have a history way older than David himself. This video is about him and his music. David was born Vernon Wayne Howell in Houston, Texas. A product of a dysfunctional family, he always felt like an outsider and found solace in reading the Bible, particularly the Book of Revelation and the Seven Seals, as well as in music. David was bullied in school due to his dyslexia, which resulted in poor study skills, and as a result had to switch to special education classes inside the facility. What followed next were years of studying the Bible, trying to make it in the music industry, and some questionable relations with members of the opposite sex. In the summer of 1981, the now 21-year-old David moved to Waco, Texas, and joined a religious group called Branch Davidians, led by its founder's wife, Lois Roden. It was speculated that the two started a romantic relationship even though she was 40 years his senior. David also started to claim that God had chosen him to be the father of Lois's child and that child would be the chosen one, aka the Messiah. In 1983, she allowed him to begin teaching his own message, called the Serpent's Root, which caused quite a stir in the group, particularly with Lois's son George Roden. He really didn't like David at all. After Lois's death in 1986, tensions escalated. George was a mentally ill person with anger issues. There were many back and forths between the two, but that all ended in 1989 when Roden killed a man named Dale Adair for believing that he was a hitman sent by the cult of David Koresh. He was confined in a mental hospital and passed away in 1998 at the age of 60. But let's talk about Koresh now. After Roden's imprisonment, David gained the sole leadership of the Branch Davidians, who were all mesmerized by his charisma and musicianship. But soon after, the ATF began to suspect the group was abusing the children there as well as holding illegal weapons. They raided the compound of Mount Carmel in Waco, Texas, and what followed was a 51-day-old siege, which resulted in many of the Davidians losing their lives as well as David himself. Okay, now let's talk about his music, because there was kinda a lot of that going on in his sermons, and he even recorded some of it. The guy was actually a very good guitar player, and his voice had a soothing quality to it. As a whole, I would describe his music as like 80s Christian rock. The first song I wanna discuss is a little track called Madman in Waco, which you can find on YouTube, by the way. I think it's actually a really catchy, like, as I said, 80s rock power ballad. I enjoyed it. But what stands out the most to me is the title, Madman in Waco. And no, it's not written about David. It's actually written about George Roden, and I think by now we all know why he was referred to as a madman. The next song I wanna break down is an acoustic piece titled Jesus Loves Me, and to me it's a beautiful piece of audio while also being very, very sad. Let me explain to you why. You see, David takes care of all the verses, but when the chorus kicks in, a little girl begins singing it. And it is believed that that little girl was one of the victims of the siege who perished in the fire. The identity is unknown, but people are almost certain that the song is sung by two people who suffered a tragic end. Accompanied with a lo-fi quality and gentle guitar playing, it gives like a dark lullaby kinda sound. You can also find this track here on YouTube. Just type in David Koresh, Jesus Loves Me, and it should pop up. I wanted to focus on these two songs specifically because I found them the most enjoyable to listen to, but there are about 13 more tracks by him available, so if you want to explore more of his music, you can go look it up. So in conclusion, this was one tragic story. In fact, it's one of the worst things that happened on the American soil, according to many. And with that said, Angel of Retribution out.